Aloha and welcome back to E Ola Pono and Mr. E. We're here to eat good food and live a balanced life. First thing we always do is wash our hands. Let's go ahead and do that first. Scrub it in between fingers. All right, ready to go. And it has been an awesome summer with you, Keiki here, and with your ohanas as well in the kitchen. Thank you so much for helping out and learning so much in the kitchen here in Hawaii and all over the world. So it has been just awesome. This is our last episode for this summer, and we're gonna try and keep coming at y'all with some more ingredients and some more ways to cook in the future. Today, we're here with this. Squash. Kabocha squash. That right there is a squash that is from Japan originally. And what you'll see is this beautiful, bumpy, green skin on the outside. This right here is a tough skin squash right here. And it's filled with vitamins. You will probably see this eaten in the winter time a lot, but it's filled with vitamins like vitamin A, beta carotene, and those help keep your eyes and your skin super healthy. So this is an awesome vegetable we're gonna be cooking with today. And you kids probably don't have something that looks like this right now. You probably have something that looks a little bit more like this. Here we have kabocha squash that's partially cooked and then frozen by Hawaii Ulu Cooperative. So big mahalo for joining us in La'iopua this summer and helping to get some fresh ingredients for our keiki here in West Hawaii. And today we're gonna keep it really simple. We've only got one recipe for y'all, and we're gonna be turning these into our roasted kabocha fries. This recipe is going to be really simple, and I think you're going to enjoy it. If you've got a kabocha squash like this, it's going to take a lot more cutting. If you're cooking with our La'iopua program and you've got one of these packs, it's going to be super simple. But if you want these a little crunchier, a little crispier, a little bit smaller pieces, you're going to want to take these out about 10 minutes before you actually want to start baking all of this, because the frozen pieces are really hard to cut, okay? Now, here's my secret tip for you chefs out there on making sure you get the crispiest fries you can. We're gonna go ahead and preheat our oven at 325 degrees. Now, every oven is a little bit different, so talk to your family about what temperature is gonna work for you, but I am going to put my baking sheet in the oven while this preheats. That's gonna make this super hot. So when I put my kabocha squash on there, the skin already starts to get nice and crispy. So let me put this in empty into the oven. Now, whenever you open up the oven, you always wanna stand off to the side just because there's a lot of heat that could be coming out of there. So just always stay safe. This is always about being safe. Now, we've got this big old squash, and that's what I'm gonna show you just in case you get your hands on one. So this is what we've been practicing for all summer, something nice and tough like this to cut. You're gonna get on a nice powerful stance and cut this right in half first. The interesting thing when you open up your kabocha squash, you're gonna see these seeds all in there. Some people throw them away. What you could do though is cut this again. We're gonna scoop them out and take out all those fibrous bits right there. And what we're gonna end up doing is just having our seeds all washed off, and we can actually roast those. That is something I'm gonna do on the side. So if you ever just wanna wash off your seeds and throw them in some oil and some salt, you can put that in the oven too with the rest of your squash. Let me finish cutting this out and show you what it looks like to scoop out those seeds. I'm gonna put this flat side down to make it as easy as I can to cut. Now, as we start to get this out of here, you'll start seeing it looks really similar to our frozen pieces here. The only difference is a little bit in the color, and then that the seeds are out. I just like to use a spoon and get those seeds right out of there. So now what I've got is actually 4 quarters with all my seeds taken out. And I can cut these into smaller hunks here. I know some of your families have different recipes to cook, and that's why we start thinking about what size we're gonna wanna turn these into. Some of your families like tempura, kind of like what they have at Tashima's, and that would be kind of smaller slices, and you can make an awesome recipe with some tempura. But if you wanted to, you could also do what my mom does and make this like bigger chunks and throw it into a bean stew. For these fries, we're actually gonna cut them into little slices, and that's what we're going to be doing here. This skin doesn't look great. Some people like to take it off. I actually like to keep it on. It's totally edible, and I think it actually adds to the character of this dish. So I'm gonna cut the rest of these up. I'm actually gonna cut some of these frozen ones up too, so you can see what it would look like for you all as well. So let's chop the rest of these up. Now, we've got all of our squash cut up in this bowl. All I have to do is add the last 2 ingredients. This one is some oil. I chose avocado oil because it handles higher heat better before smoking. You could choose some different oils, but there we go. You want to be careful that you pick something that is good for cooking, not just something that's good for salad dressings, because you could get a lot of smoke in your oven. Now, we've got our oil on top of our kabocha, and I'm just going to add some salt. Now, to make sure it gets evenly coated, something about cooking is make sure things are even. I'm going to go ahead and give this a really good spin. If you start losing some pieces like that, don't be afraid to actually use a tool like tongs instead to actually get around and make sure that you just cover every piece with the same amount of oil and the same amount of salt. Okay, now these are totally ready to go into the oven, and actually, now that I'm speaking, the oven is perfectly heated and ready. Okay, now it's hot. Ooh. Yeah, like I said, you're gonna wanna definitely stand off to the side. You're gonna feel that heat. One thing about the kitchen you definitely wanna be careful with, I've definitely heard of some people even losing their eyebrows when they weren't too careful in the kitchen. Okay, so we're gonna spread these around on this cookie sheet evenly. I'm gonna use my tongs to help me. Now, one thing you are not going to want to do is to crowd your pan too much. Like we talked about in an earlier episode, that's gonna take all the heat away from your cooking, and it's not gonna let your food cook evenly. So please try not to overcrowd your pan. If you've got more squash, just put it in another pan. Or wait till this one cooks and then trade it out for some fresh squash to cook in there. Let's go ahead and get this back in the oven. Like I said in an earlier episode, I always wear a watch in the kitchen, and the reason why is for times like now. I'm gonna actually time about 15 minutes. That way I can then rotate these onto their other side and cook them evenly so that the whole piece of squash actually gets nice and roasted like a little French fry. So what I'm gonna do now is rotate these so they cook evenly. And what you're gonna see is the smaller pieces usually cook faster, so that's why it's important to try and make your cuts even or to pay attention to your cooking times. Oh, let me turn my seeds while I got them. Now at this point, I'm gonna put my timer on for 10 minutes. At 10 minutes, I'm gonna want to start watching the oven. I'm gonna keep the door closed because I don't want heat to keep coming out of the oven. Now that I've turned them once, it should be fine, but I'm gonna let them cook. So at 10 minutes, I'm gonna start really observing them using the oven light, and when they're perfectly golden brown, that is when I'll take them out so they can cool off and we can actually enjoy them with our ohana. And this has been an amazing summer here in the kitchen in Hola Pono and Mr. E. I've been Mr. E. This is Leah. We've been having an awesome time putting this together for you all. This is our last episode for this summer right now. We're really sad about that. But if you subscribe and follow along with us, we should actually have more episodes coming up in the future, in this fall. So definitely just take a moment and follow along with us if you've been appreciating being in the kitchen with us. But besides that, hope you all enjoy your food. Hoi ho. Looks like a fry. Kind of.
Delicious.
Good job. You probably have something that looks a little bit more like this.
Okay, let's do this again. But then smash it. Hold on.